Man, some fancy playlist this is turning out to be the week of December 20th, 1981. I've got ballads up the gazoo on this fancy playlist. I mean, this is more of an adult playlist than a rock and roll playlist. Well, you got Bob Seger and Foreigner and Billy Squire, but still, yet another ballad at number 25, Sheena Easton, You Could Have Been With Me. Although that was a lovely record. That song, and here's the interesting thing about You Could Have Been With Me. It was written by a woman, a rock and roll woman from New Zealand. She fronted a acid rock band in New Zealand. It was called Ragnarok. Her name, Leah Malford, or Malfred. And I'm probably mispronouncing her last name. For the record, I'll spell her last name out. It's Malfrid. She fronted this hard rock band in New Zealand with success. She's originally from New Zealand. She toured with Elton John in Australia. Elton John asked her to come to London. He wanted her to record at his record label. His record label was called the Rocket Record Company, but that fell through. She was slated to record for Elton John's label. Didn't happen. Instead, she's stuck in London. She starts shopping out her demos of her songs. A couple of her demos fell into the right hands. Talk about absolute good fortune. Fell into the hands of a producer his name was Christopher Neal, Sheena Easton's producer. Eventually, he got Sheena Easton record two of Leah Malfred's records. One of them, You Could Have Been With Me. Now, here's the thing that's interesting, too. Leah Malfred was not into Sheena Easton per se. She was just barely aware of Sheena Easton. As a matter of fact, she told a receptionist at the record company, she said to her, I don't really care if Sheena Easton records these records. I don't care. And the receptionist said something like, well, you're going to care when you see that paycheck. And boy, she got a paycheck out of that song. You Could Have Been With Me. As a matter of fact, the paycheck was so big that Leah Malford switched to songwriting. And that's where you get a lot of your money from, is songwriting. The royalty checks. Got a savvy business sense, Leah Malford did. And the song Could Have Been With Me didn't do well in Britain. It only went as high as number 54 in the UK, but here in the States it went to number 15. 1981 was a huge year for Sheena Easton. It started out in late 80, about fall of 1980 with Morning Train. Then Morning Girl came out. That was a big one back in the spring of 81. And For Your Eyes Only, late summer, fall of 1981. I believe it's from a James Bond movie. I don't remember, but I think it went to number one. If it didn't, it came close to going to number one for Sheena Easton. And then in late 81, You Could Have Been With Me, number 25 on my fancy playlist.